initially I didn't plan to escape with my mom. I was going to escape with my own sister, but because I got sick, my sister had to leave first. I found a note and found a lady with my mom and told her that she told me if I go to China, she said I was going to find my sister.
Right.
And then, I mean, but when you're so desperate, like you don't even know what China is. Like we don't have internet to search and what's going on in China. Just hoping, because China is the only place that had the lights at night.
And if you look at North Korea from a satellite image, it's quite interesting because the entire country is black at night and it's surrounded by the bright lights of South Korea and all of Southeast Asia. But you have this immense territory, the whole north of Korea, that's completely dark. And you talked about standing with your boyfriend at that time, looking at the lights in the distance of China, but you didn't know anything about it at all and had no idea what was going to happen to you if you escaped into China.
No, I did not even know what was China. I just saw the lights, and maybe if I go where the lights were, I thought maybe I would find a bottle of rice. That's how innocently we thought about it. And
right, and some of that motivation was direct hunger, right? You were hoping to find somewhere where you could at least get enough to eat.
Yeah, it was. That's the thing. It's a thing when people say you're so brave that you risked your life for freedom. Like, no, I wasn't. I didn't even know what freedom was then. Like, how do I know what freedom is? And I just was literally escaping to find some food to survive from hunger. And that's how we crossed that frozen river that night with my mother and myself when I was 13 years old to China, leaving my father behind back in North Korea.
So tell us what happened. Tell us about what happens to North Koreans as they move with the traffickers into Korea, because that's a whole story in and of itself. And it was something you had no idea about.
I know, this is the thing, like people, the world is obsessed talking about slavery, but this is a slavery that's happening just right now at this very moment that we are talking about this. So there are like 300,000 North Korean defectors are in China, and they are all enslaved by Chinese people. I was one of them. In 2007, we found this lady. Miraculously, she wanted to help me to go to China. I didn't even know why. She bribed the guards. So in North Korea, it's the most heavily guarded border with the people with the machine guns. And Kim Jong-un literally buries landmines on the border, so people would not escape. So entire country is a concentration camp. Entire border is sealed. We will luckily bribe the guards. We crossed the frozen river to China. And of course, the first thing I see was my mom being raped in front of me.
And you said that your mother offered herself as an alternative to you.
Yeah.
And you were 13 at the time. And that was your first introduction to sex of any sort, because there was no sexual education or contact for young people. There was no sexual education and no romance, no dating, anything like that. So that was your first introduction. I don't imagine you even understood what was happening.
No, that's the thing. Like, I go there and I was like something 60 pounds. I was very malnourished, maybe 50 something, but so small. And this man was like, I want to have sex with her. And my mom's like, what do you mean? Like, she's only a child. And then he's like, I want to have sex with her. So it's like, just take me instead. And he was raping her in front of me. But I'm like, I just never seen a sex video ever. Never even knew what rape was. That word was not even in my head. I just seeing something so horrible that I didn't want to see. And after that, they took us to this house where they would like literally make us stand up, make us turn around, take our teeth and everything, and making price on our body.
Yeah. Now let me fill in a bit of background there. So the way you lay that out in your autobiography is that there's a heavy demand for North Korean women in China, especially rural China. And the fundamental reason for that, apart from desire for labor, is that China instituted a one-child policy back in the 60s, and many female fetuses were more aborted than male. So there's a disproportionate number of young Chinese men who have no partner and no probability of acquiring one, because there's an absolute shortage of of women. And so you and your mother were valuable commodities because of the shortage of women.
Exactly.
Yes,
So
I've
as
got
you
that right.
said,
And there was a price on, you both had a high value.
yeah.
And that's when you entered what was essentially the world of slavery.
Mhm. It's as you said, right now in China, literally 30 million young men has no hope of finding women in their life. 30 million men in China right now. So because of the regime, Chinese regime do not want these men to revolt, even because of dissatisfaction with their lifestyle. In a way, Chinese regime does not cracking down on this human right trafficking either. We are almost like the price they are using to pay for this make men not revolt. And then, so when we go, I was 13 years old. I was a virgin. So my price would be less than $300 in 2007. And my mom's price was less than $100. That's how little a human being worth right now in this 21st century. And then each trafficker buys us, price goes up. So the second trafficker comes and buys us and then pay more price. Then they sell us to the Chinese farmers or the men, or to sell us to brothels or prostitution and like a lot of other like underground world, and sell us like products like commodity. And then I remember that's the thing. Like at 13, they were asking, so in China, in order to be here, you gotta be sold. And I didn't even know what human trafficking was. Like, what do you mean you're selling a human? I'm not a puppy. Like, how do you sell me? And they were like, no, you gotta be sold here. And they said like literally to me was that, oh, if you don't want to be sold, you can go back to North Korea. We can let you guys go back. But the thing is, going back to North Korea is a death. Like, even though miraculously regime doesn't punish me, there's no chance for me to find food. I mean, that's the hardest thing. It's like there's no place for us to go outside of North Korea. Like, if we leave that country, whatever the condition is, it's better than being in North Korea, because at least in China, we are being fed. Doesn't matter, we are raped, tortured, we are at least being fed. And that's how we stayed in China and they sold me separately from my mom, because they can charge two people's price. So they sold my mom and sold me separately, and that's how I got separated from all my family at 13.
Yeah, well, you said at the beginning when you went into China that you didn't tell the smugglers, the traffickers, that you were traveling with your mother. You said that she was younger than she was, and you said that you were older than you were.
Exactly.
Because they weren't going to take you otherwise.
Yeah, so the lady...
And you had no idea what was in store for you at that point also.
No, I did not know. But she told me, oh, don't tell them you guys are mother and daughters. Just say you're maybe aunt or something. And told my mom, you're much younger, you're much older. And because human trafficking was something that I didn't hear about in my life, I was so scared, because in North Korea, there's no bad news. Every news is a happy news, how amazing we are winning in the revolution. So I never even knew what rape was. Like in America, if you watch news, like somebody raped, you know what rape is. But in North Korea, they steal every information from you. Like news is not actual news. So not knowing what rape is, not knowing what human trafficking is, and just completely into just another like planet.
But you had enough to eat.
Yeah.
And was that the first time in your life that you'd actually had enough to eat? Were you able to find enough so that you could eat until you were full? Did you experience that at that point?
That's when I learned. Another thing is, it didn't matter that I had food to eat again, because I lost everything that mattered to me. Like I lost everything. And so I wanted to kill myself. Like I finally went to the place where there was a food for me, but then that means me being a slave, and I'm losing every single one of them in my life. And I was going to kill myself. And at that point, this broker told me, if you help me become my mistress, help me with my trafficking business, that I'm going to help you with your own family.
Why did you decide to stay alive? What kept you going?
Because my mother, he told me at that point, he said, if I don't kill myself and helping him, then he said he was going to buy my mom because he's the one who sold my mom to a farmer.
Right. So at that point you were separated and your mother was
sold to a farmer.
the enslaved wife, so to speak, of a farmer in a rural community.
Yes.
So she had to be bought back, and that's the deal he offered you.
Yes.
And so you decided to stay alive because you thought you could help your mother.
Yeah.